Hello and welcome to the Working with Lists demo. In this demo, we'll learn how to add items in a list, sort, and change their format. Lists are used a great deal in programming, and RPA makes no exception. Lists are suitable whenever usernames, employee numbers, invoice numbers, and other elements need capturing, storing, or processing. Lists are similar to arrays, one of the main differences being that lists have specific methods for adding and removing elements. This means arrays are more suitable in situations where we expect the size of the collection to stay the same. For example, we can use an array to store the name of each month of the year. Lists are better suited for situations where we can expect the size of the collection to change during execution. We'll start this demo by creating two list variables that contain city names. Next, we'll proceed to merge the variables together to create a new list of strings. Once we finish that, we'll format all of the city names to the proper case, with first letter uppercase. In the end, we'll print the result to the output panel to check if the operations were performed as expected. Let's get started. Let's begin by creating a new process which we'll name List Demo. Next, we'll add a sequence in our Designer panel and rename it as List Demo. And add a descriptive annotation. We'll create two variables of type list of strings. One of the variables will store names of cities found in Spain, and we'll call this Spain Cities. The other variable will store the names of cities found in the United Kingdom and will be named as UK Cities. Let's also set the variable type to list of strings for both of them. To do that, we'll need to browse for the list type. Let's select the list entry under system.collections.generic and set the element type to string since we want to use it to store a list of city names. The second variable is of the same type, so let's select the system.collections.generic list of system string for it as well. Great! Although our lists are declared, they don't exist as objects yet. They both need to be initialized and populated with values. In this demo, we'll learn how to do that in two different ways. For the first method, we'll initialize and populate the Spain cities list in a single line. First, we'll need to initialize the list, so let's type in new list of string in the default value field. At this moment, our collection exists, but it is empty. Let's specify the values we want to append by adding from Madrid in uppercase, Valencia in lowercase, and Barcelona in uppercase again. For the second list, we'll specify the values by using the second method, the add to collection activity. But first, let's instantiate the object by typing in new list of string. To add our cities to the list, we'll use two add to collection activities. From the Properties panel, we'll specify the collection to which we want to add a value, which is UK Cities. Next, we'll enter the item to be added, London, and set the type argument to string. We'll perform the same steps for the second add to collection activity, but add Manchester in uppercase as the value. Perfect. Right now, the first list we created is populated with 3 values, and the second list is populated with 2 values. What we'll do next is to merge the two lists. To do this, let's create a new variable to store all of the city names. We'll name it All Cities and update its type to list of strings. To merge the lists, we'll use an assign activity. Rename it and add the enumerable.concat method. Let's add all cities inside the to field and add our expression in the value field. We can notice in the method signature that only parameters of the enumerable type are accepted, but our collections are lists. Now to make this work, we'll need to add .asEnumerable after each list in order to convert the list items to enumerable types. Since this method returns asEnumerable, we'll need to convert the result of the enumerable.concat method back to a list. We can do this by using the toList method. So we'll add .toList at the end. Great, we've merged the two lists. To sort this list, normally we'd use the Visual Basic Sort method. However, note that this is an instance method and doesn't return any values. This means that we can't use it in an assign activity. Instead, we'll use the invoke method activity. Let's also rename it. As a quick introduction, when using this activity, it's important to know what kind of method we're calling, instance or static. We can quickly find this out from the method signature. Static methods contain the word static in the signature. Instance methods do not. This is important because we need to configure the activity in specific ways depending on the type of method we're calling. When we call a static method, we configure the target type and do not fill in the target object property. When we call an instance method, we leave the target type as null and configure the target object. If we check the signature for the sort method, we'll see that it doesn't include the word static. As it is an instance method, we'll only set the target object to all cities, the method name to sort, and leave the target type null. Everything looks good. Now we have an ordered list that contains the city names from Spain and the United Kingdom. Next, we'll format each item in the list to use proper case. For that, we'll create a new variable called AllCitiesProperCase, set it to list of strings, and initialize it with new list of string. In order to format the strings correctly, we need to loop through the elements of the AllCities list. So we use a forEach activity. Let's give it a descriptive name as well. We'll change the name of the item to city and add AllCities as our input collection. Then we'll set the argument type to string. Let's add an assign activity within the forEach so that each item will be processed using a string conversion method. Inside the to field, let's create a new string variable and call it properCaseTemp. In the value field, we'll add this expression, which returns a string converted as specified. The arguments are as follows: the string to be converted, followed by the conversion settings. Virtual basic string convert.properCase, which converts the first letter of every word in a string to uppercase and the following letters to lowercase. Next, each formatted item stored in the properCaseTemp variable needs to be added to our new collection, AllCitiesProperCase. We'll use the Add to Collection activity to do this. Let's rename the activity descriptively. Next, we'll add our list variable in the collection property and our string variable in the item property. To display the result, we'll use a simple log message activity called printResultingCities. To print all elements in a single message, we'll use the string.join method. We'll indicate comma and space as the separator, and AllCitiesProperCase as the input collection. Now let's run the process and see what happens. As we can see in the output panel, the output list contains the cities from both lists. They're arranged in alphabetical order and written in proper case. Perfect! This concludes our demo on working with lists. Before we end the demo, let's quickly recap what we've learned. Lists can be used whenever dealing with collections we expect to change in size at runtime. We can use them for usernames, employee numbers, invoice numbers, and other elements that need to be captured, stored, or processed. The variable type used for lists is system.collections.generic.list of type. Of type defines the type of the elements contained within the list. Lists need to be initialized and populated with values. We've covered two ways to do this. The first was to initialize and populate the list in a single line. The second was to initialize the variable using the default value and to populate it using add-to-collection activities. To merge lists, we can use the enumerable.concat method. To sort lists, we can use the invoke method activity and invoke the instance method sort. If we want to print a list of strings, the string.join method can help us to achieve this. What are other scenarios where merging lists together might need formatting each item? Try them out. Thanks for watching and happy automation!